What's going on, everybody? So there's a national school walkout. Everybody's walking out of school, or not everybody, but a lot of the kids, they're upset with gun violence and they want to make a difference and they want people to stop killing each other with guns, especially at schools. So that's the big protest today. Let's talk about it. Let's have some real talk and some rare talk that you won't see on the corporate news, you won't see on the television. You certainly won't see this promoted on social media because the tech companies are just as, controlled as corporate media. They've pretty much swallowed alive the tech companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo, all of them. They're all pretty much the same. They're an echo chamber of one opinion, and it's very, 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 very rarely accurate, unfortunately. So let's wait about 30, 40 more seconds for people to get in, and let's talk about these gun protests because, the kids are out, they're marching, and I have a lot to say about it. If you don't like the truth, if you don't like honesty, and, I would suggest maybe this is not for you. I'm sure it's going to upset people from both sides, but at this point, I don't really care. That's just where I'm at, so let's wait about 30 more seconds. Thank you, Dan. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it. What's going on, Donna? Thank you for coming. I see a lot of the comments, people saying, these kids don't even care. They just want to get out of class. Okay, so I kind of want to wait maybe like 20 more seconds for people to get in. It's not that popping yet. What's going on, Trevor? I usually try not to stall too much because when I put this on YouTube afterwards, then the people on YouTube are like, "What's he talking about? We're not even coming into the live stream." But that's a risk we're willing to take. Okay, so they got the school walkout, which is it seems like a very vague situation. The Parkland shooting happened. If anybody's not familiar with that, I don't know how. It's been all over the news for the past month. There was an active shooter at a school that killed, some kids. I believe it was like between 10 and 30. Unfortunately, the FBI had multiple tips on them. They didn't do anything. Somebody called them, was like, this kid's going to shoot up a school. And they're like, nah, whatever. And then the police, at first there were reports that they had 20 different calls about the kid. And then there were reports that there were 30 and 40 different calls about the kid. So the police got between 20 and 50 calls about the kid. They did nothing. There was an armed security guard who did nothing. Apparently he got a pension and he's, out vacationing now with hundreds of thousands of dollars. There were other police officers at the scene who did nothing. So this was one of the sloppiest situations I've ever seen personally. You had the FBI miss multiple tips. You had the police officers, literally 4 of them, stand outside the school. You had tens upon tens. I mean, you don't get that many opportunities to stop a school shooting. You literally get 40 different tips. They're they didn't just say the kid's dangerous. They're like, this kid's gonna literally shoot up the school, and the police are like, They're like, well, we're just gonna instead of doing something about it, we're just gonna, we're gonna run 6 active school shooters, 6 active drills a month. They did 5 to 6 drills a month at the school. They had 2 drills that day. I'm just letting you know about the situation because if everybody's going to protest the gun reform because of the Parkland shooting, I think we should talk about what happened. So, there's 5 drills a month. They had active shooter drills where people were shooting blanks at the kids. So apparently that's what went down there. They had 40 opportunities or so to stop this kid from shooting up the school. They didn't do it. The police officer stood outside while he massacred all the kids. And instead of doing something about the kid that they literally knew was going to shoot up the school, they thought it was a good idea to run 5 drills a month. So nothing suspicious there, nothing out of the normal. I mean, what public school do you know that does 5 active shooter drills a month? I don't know any. I don't know that there are any other ones, but I guess we're supposed to just pretend that's normal. Oh yeah, I'm sure they just had 5 shooter drills a month, and the FBI and the police got all these tips, and the police were just standing outside of the school. I guess we're just supposed to ignore that. And so now, the media and the tech companies and the celebrities have convinced the kids, instead of telling the kids all of this stuff, which I just told you, which is completely factually true. You could look it all up. CNN has admitted it. Washington Post has admitted it. It's a fact that these cowardly police officers stood outside the school and did nothing. It's a fact that they did 5 drills a month. It's a fact that they did shooter drills with like active blanks at the school. So it almost seems like the school was ready for a shooting. Like they were asking for it to happen. They're like, let's do all these drills, but not actually do anything about the kid that we know is going to shoot up the school anyway. So, you know, what ends up happening? The media tells people we need gun reform now, 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 we need gun reform now. And then, you know, kind of similar to the Hitler Youth, that's kind of a joke, but, you know, all kidding aside, you know, they brainwash the children and say, hey, we need gun reform, we need gun reform. Ignore the fact that the police aren't doing their job. Ignore the fact that gun-free zones are where all of the school shootings usually happen. You know, ignore the fact that in the cities with the you know, the strictest gun laws, they have the most gun violence, because anybody with a brain or common sense understands that there's tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of guns in the United States. There's millions of illegal guns that are very, very easy to access. You know, when I talk to my friends, you know, anonymous friends or whatnot, just people that I know, and I'm like, how easy is it to get an illegal gun? They're like, oh, I could get one in an hour at any point. So it's ridiculous that they think they're going to outlaw guns. Anyway, you know, they ignore all of these things that I'm talking about because that's not important. You know, the truth isn't important. Stopping death isn't important. You know, I think 9 to 10 kids kill themselves texting while driving every single day. You know, there's hundreds of thousands of people die from obesity and heart disease. We have an opioid epidemic, a heroin epidemic. You got hundreds of thousands of people dying from pharmacy pills every single day. But, you know, none of this matters. Like what I'm saying doesn't matter because they're not going to broadcast it. I'm never going to be on the Snapchat featured news section. I'm never going to be on the Facebook featured news section. I'm never going to be featured on Twitter. I'm probably never going to be on CNN or MSNBC. Heck, I probably won't even be on Fox because I don't just scream about abortions the whole time. If I was here saying abortions kill babies, I'm sure I would be on Fox the next day. But, you know, I don't do that, so they're not going to have me on either. So the big thing is here anyway, just to, you know, get back to the point, the kids are talking about gun reform. They want some sort of gun reform. I don't know if they know what type of gun reform they want. I don't know if they even know the laws. You know, a lot of the television stations, they say, man, this is a military-grade weapon when it's not a military-grade weapon. You know, they just kind of have an agenda to push, which is they want gun reform. And the weird thing about this is that they actually kind of took a stab at the first 2 amendments at the same time. They immediately went for the Second Amendment to alter it, which, you know, I'm just telling you, I'm just laying out facts here. I didn't even get to the point of what I really think about the protests. You know, bear with me. But they went at the Second Amendment, you know, immediately, which is fine. You know, if you're for that, that's cool. If you're against, some people are for gun reform. That's totally fine. You know, everyone could have their own opinion. There's a lot of people that are anti-gun reform. However, I'm just laying it out. So they went at the Second Amendment, and then anybody who was questioning that, they were like, hey, like, what about all the police officers who stood there and did nothing? You know, what about the fact that gun-free zones are the most violent places? You know, what about the fact that this kid's lying on television? And what about the fact that the cities with the you know, strictest gun laws have the most gun crimes? Anybody who said that was, you know, then censored and banned off YouTube. They deleted entire channels. They deleted 2 of my videos. You know, so it's interesting because, you know, regardless of what you think about gun control, the facts of the matter is, you know, right when this school situation happened, they went for the Second Amendment, and then anybody questioning that, they took away basically their First Amendment. So that's the big shocker to me, because I'm all about freedom and truth and equality. So I think it's very interesting how, you know, they could go for the first 2 amendments and liberals just salivate over it, and then, you know, they got to go for the youth because the youth are going to be the next ones, and then they say, oh man, we gotta let 16-year-old votes, and we gotta let 15-year-old votes, and 14-year-olds should vote in elections. I'm not making this stuff up. This is really what they do. So what do I think about the protests, and what do I think about the fact that they are, you know, marching? I just question, because I truly believe, you might think that I'm a big gun fanatic, and that, based on what I'm saying, that I love guns and I want the teachers to be armed. That's not the type of person I am. Even when President Trump said that, personally, I'm not a big fan of arming teachers. To me personally, that sounds like a terrible idea. I'm sure a lot of people here will disagree. I'm sure a lot of people will agree. To be honest, I don't really care. I'm not for arming all teachers. I'm not a big gun fan personally. I'm not hating if you are, to each their own. But I'm convinced now, and I don't even want to use the word liberal, because I don't even, like, a classic liberal doesn't do any of these things that they're doing. I'm going to use the term mind-controlled television and tech company zombie. So the zombies, for sure. We'll say the zombies, who are just the people in society who just follow whatever they're told. And nowadays there's a concerted, organized effort between the tech companies, between the television companies, between the comedy stations, between the late night shows, between the celebrities, and now into the kids. There's a organized effort to make everybody think a certain way. And I say it's not liberal because I'm for all peace, love, opportunity. I want gun violence to go down. Trust me. I think personally we could have stricter laws when it comes to mental health. I think we should have maybe better background checks, similar to like background checks when people come into the country. I'm all for vetting and making sure the right people, guns don't get into the hands of wrong people. However, I'm not convinced that the zombies, the people who just followed the tech companies, I know actually for a fact, they're not actually trying to solve any problem, because in order to solve a problem, in order to solve the gun violence problem, in order to solve, deaths and human trafficking and all of these other things that are really, really horrible and they exist, you have to first understand why they're happening, and you got to explore every single option of why they're happening. And the problem with many liberals, and to be honest too, the problem with a lot of conservatives is everybody has their agenda. You know what I'm saying? They have what they want it to be. They don't care about the facts. They don't care about the evidence. They do what the television tells them to do. They do what Facebook tells them to do. They do what Google tells them to do. They do it, Bumble puts out a message and they say, we're now not going to have gun pictures in our pictures because we're going to save America by not allowing you to take a picture with a gun. Whoa, wow, thank you so much. You've saved so many lives. So, you have to look at full circle, and especially the reason I've never been a conservative or Republican. One, growing up younger, they indoctrinate you in the liberal mindset, and I'm a very peace-loving person. So to be honest, I don't see eye to eye with conservatives all the time. However, conservatives used to be more stubborn to me, and that's what always turned me off to conservatives, and still, the case in many cases. But the liberal mind-controlled zombie of the media are like 10 times as stubborn as anyone I've ever seen in my life now, and I don't truly believe that they want to solve the gun issue, because why do people commit gun violence? Does it happen in places where there's strict gun laws, or does it happen more in places where there's not strict gun laws? What's their mental health like? What pharmacy pills are they taking? What does their parental situation look like? Because there's a huge, huge correlation between gun violence and mass atrocities and, somebody who wasn't raised properly. And I'm not knocking anybody. Me personally, my parents were divorced, and, luckily they did enough where I turned out to not want to massacre a school or anything. So, my parents did a good job on that note. Thank you guys so much. I'm not knocking if you don't come from a normal family, because like I said, I didn't personally. But these type of things correlate with school shootings. You have kids who don't come from broken homes. They're always on pharmacy pills. Someone said white boys. There does seem to be a correlation between young white males and shooting up schools. So, I'm not offended. I don't mind looking at, and it's men. You know what I'm saying? It's 98% men. So it's like everybody's so quick to push their agenda, and everybody's so quick to be offended by everything. Like, racial talk doesn't offend me. I'm Italian, Puerto Rican, Polish. Clearly my skin is light. People would say white unless, I'm very tan, and then people think I'm Spanish or Armenian or something. Anyway, in order to figure out the problem of gun violence, we need to figure out what's going on. Who's committing it? What gender are they? Potentially look at ethnicities. Look at, I'm not saying to discriminate or anything, but like, let's get to the bottom of it. What's their mental place at? What's their family structure like? What are they watching? And people don't want to do that. So it's like, everybody's out marching. They don't want to look at how many pharmacy pills they're taking. They don't want to look at their family structure. They don't want to look if it was a gun-free zone. They want what they want. The modern-day mind-controlled liberal, they have this weird ideology that they think the same government that goes over to other countries and they fund moderate rebels and they overthrow regimes and they give Israel $20 billion of weapons and they give Palestine $300 million of weapons and they give Iran $1 billion and then they give Saudi Arabia $1 billion. For some reason, the mind-controlled TV liberal, they think that this government, this same government that does what I just told you, they think that they're going to stop gun violence in the United States by, I don't know, changing legislation, taking away the Second Amendment from law-abiding citizens, or calling the NRA terrorist organizations, even though the NRA never even commits crimes. It's just so foolish to me. And meanwhile, the liberal, or the mind-controlled zombie, I'll say, because I don't think it's all liberals, and I don't mean to be offensive. Like I said, I told you, the flaws of the conservative and stuff too, and we all have flaws. I'm not above it by any means. I'm just being honest. The mind-controlled, television-watching, tech company-believing zombie, they think legislation is going to change everything. They think higher taxes are going to help the poor, when in every other country, when they raise taxes, literally, the country turns into a socialist hellhole. It happens almost everywhere. It's happening in Brazil. It happened in Venezuela. It almost always leads to communism because it's just common sense, really. You take all the money and the power away from the people. Take your money, take your tax dollars, and give it to the government who already squanders trillions of dollars. I mean, it's just funny. I'm just going to have a good time with it today instead of getting upset, because it's like, you have a government that literally will go on camera and they'll say, hey, I lost $9 trillion. They'll say, I lost $9 trillion. And then liberals will be in the streets marching saying, no, we need to take your taxpayer dollars. That's what's going to make America better. We need to take your money and give it to the people who are losing trillions of dollars and who literally, are owned and bought by a Federal Reserve banking system that literally creates money out of thin air, but they need your money. They've invented a fiat currency that doesn't even make sense. That's trillions of dollars in debt. We're $20 trillion in debt or so to China, but somehow taking your money and taking your guns away is going to fix all this. You can't make this stuff up. This is literally what they believe. So, a kid that's probably jacked up on pharmacy pills, you know what I'm saying? The police aren't paying attention to because they're too busy, I don't know, doing who knows what. Somehow, exploring all options, exploring all sides of this, that's not the way to go. The way to go is, we need legislation. We'll just ignore the fact that, cities with the most legislation, they have the highest gun crimes, because what do you do when you do that type of stuff? You take you take guns away from law-abiding citizens trying to protect themselves or who like hunting, and the only people who have guns are criminals. And, just to make all of this stuff worse, the same people that are in the streets marching, calling the NRA terrorists, they think, they think all like standard Americans are like terrorists. They literally support politicians who support actual terrorists and people who, murder millions of people and chop people's heads off and like literally enslave people and put them in chains and, put them in front of their military things to be like human shields. These are the people that they support. So they want to take guns away from law-abiding citizens. And then they want open borders. They think President Trump is a terrible person because he wants to make a wall that's this big. Trump wants to make a wall that's this big that you could jump over. He wants to make it this big, so he's racist for having common sense. They want no borders. I know some people that say, hey, tear down the fence. Let's not even have a country. Let's just combine Mexico with the U.S. And those people somehow, this is just parody at its finest. These are the people that are brainwashing the kids to march in the streets. And somehow those are the people that are going to stop gun violence. So they want cartels to just run rampant all over the United States. They want a wall that's this big instead of having a wall this big. And then they think that changing legislation is going to stop gun violence. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's really a mind-blowing philosophy, and that's why I say all this stuff. You know, I have people that I guess like they must listen to my videos like this because it's like I crushed the whole illusion that they have, or I don't know what. And they're like, they accuse me of all these things and say, oh my God, how did you switch from there to there? It's like, well, I didn't switch per se. It's like the modern day, the liberal was never like this. You know, the Republicans, they were always bad. Trump came through, you know, was way better than all the Republicans, was way better than all the Democrats. And I realize that, and other people don't. It's not my fault. But, I mean, why, if you want to stop gun violence, why wouldn't you explore all options? Like, to me, that makes sense. I don't like gun violence, so I want to explore all the options. Why are people committing more violence now? What's going on? What's different? What's changing? But the liberals, they want to take, literally this is their strategy, take guns away and make it harder for law-abiding citizens to get guns. Meanwhile, ignoring every other factor, ignoring pharmacy pills. Of course pharmacy pills have something to do with it. Almost every active shooter has been on some sort of medication. And if you watched the CNN interview of Jake Tapper, who actually did a very brilliant job of grilling the Broward County sheriff, the sheriff in that, if you listen closely, the sheriff in that interview admits that they're like, oh, we got like 30 calls about him and we just gave him pharmacy pills. He says that in the interview. He says, oh yeah, we got so many calls about the shooter and we did nothing, but we gave him pharmacy pills. He admits that that was their solution. They just shoved pharmacy pills in the kid's mouth. I mean, if you're sober, do you do the same thing as you do with someone said, real quick, someone said, don't pigeonhole liberals. I'm not pigeonholing liberals. People are so sensitive. When I say these things, that's why I said it 20 times before I continue. I said mind-controlled television tech zombie liberals. I'm not talking about normal liberals who aren't dumb. I'm talking about the people who are mind-controlled literal zombies of the television. If you can't handle the fact that I'm saying that, maybe this live stream is not for you. I'm not pigeonholing all people. I'm calling on good liberals and smart liberals like myself and real liberals and honest liberals and common sense liberals and people of all ethnicities and political preferences that actually want to help the problem. I'm calling on them to listen to me and get it together because nothing that the modern day liberals doing makes sense. Does that make sense? Thank you. Okay, so back to what I was saying. What was I talking about? I got thrown off. I was, trying to answer the question. But pharmacy pills. Okay. They admitted that they shoved the kid with pills. Just like all the kids in the street, they're probably jacked up on Adderall and all these other things because that's what they do. That's what they did to me when I was 10. They said to my mom, your son is he's very creative. He doesn't listen because he's not a moron. He doesn't want to get brainwashed, so he asks a lot of questions, and he's not a great kid, so let's give him Adderall. Let's shove cocaine in your kid. Let's shove heroin. Let's shove synthesized heroin inside your son, and then he'll pay attention in school. And my mom said, luckily, she said, my kid doesn't need these drugs. Get out of my face. Other kids, millions of kids, they're all jacked up on Adderall and heroin, literally. Does that have something to do with it? Of course it does. I mean, if you drink, alcohol, 10 shots of beer, you're going to make some decisions that you normally wouldn't do. If you smoke a lot of marijuana, you're going to do things that you normally wouldn't do, like think too much or maybe be a little bit smarter or consider things more or possibly get really paranoid and upset and scared and not want to leave the house. These are side effects of marijuana. Maybe you'll get more creative. Maybe you'll just be paranoid to sit there and not want to, go outdoors. But when you take pharmacy pills, which is synthesized heroin and synthesized cocaine and synthesized opiates and all of these things that no kid should really be taking, to be honest, under the age of 18, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think some are going to shoot schools up? And do you think some are going to freak out and do things they normally wouldn't do? Of course, but what... The same liberals, and I'm not saying all liberals. I let you know exactly who I'm talking about when I say it. I don't even like labels, but here, let me be more specific. Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, Yahoo, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, almost all the television stations, the late night hosts, or, whatever you want to call them, the extremist, liberal, alt-left cabal, if that's a better label that doesn't offend everybody. These people non-stop promote drugs. So they act like they want to stop gun control by changing legislation, but they're pumping everybody with all of these drugs that are making people loco, more loco than normal. So, Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel, they get on their high horse and they say, I'm so much better than everybody, and I'm such a good person because I listen to Chuck Schumer and take advice from Nancy Pelosi. And then what do they do in the commercials? Do they, they sell all sorts of pills. I'm not saying someone said, I take pharmacy pills. I'm not saying all pills are bad. I know a lot of people take it. More than half of the country takes pills, so I'm probably offending half of the live stream, but I don't really care. I'm not saying they're all bad. Western medicine is a blessing. There are certain pharmacy pills that are good and help you live longer and live stronger. I'm not saying it's the case for everyone, but what I am saying is there is a financial gain to be had. There's a financial motivation for these companies to overprescribe people. If you need it, I'm not talking to you right now, but there's hundreds of millions of people on pharmacy pills and over 100 million people on some sort of pill that they don't actually need. And all of the same liberals that act like they want to stop gun control, or all of the same tech companies or television companies or whatever you want to say, if that label offends you, they're the ones selling the most pills. Jimmy Kimmel sells the most pills. Comedy Central, first of all, I don't have a television, but second of all, I don't watch Comedy Central anymore because they have depressing commercials. They scare you, they depress you, they make you laugh, and then they try to shove you with depression pills. Every single commercial is a depression pill and a lawyer pill to sue the company that just ruined your life. So it makes no sense because these people don't actually care. And then when you log into Twitter literally is demonic levels of alt-left liberalism gone awry. They have articles and they're promoting to all of the same kids who are marching in the street right now. They have top featured stories for 24 hours that are reaching tens of millions of people, more people than my videos reach times 200,000. And what do they say? They say, here's why all pharmacy pills really work. Here's why pills work so well for depression. Pills are so great. Everything about pills is great. I'm not saying taking a pill is bad. I'm not saying don't take a pill if you're depressed and that's what makes you feel right and it works for you. I'm not your doctor. However, there's a few things that I'm going to tell you that no one else is going to tell you. First of all, it should probably be a last-ditch effort. Try sunshine, hang around better friends, drinking more water, doing something. I get upset and depressed sometimes, but, you got to just snap out of it sometimes. And I'm not saying that a pill won't help under the right circumstance, but 90% of the time they're not selling it to you to help you. They're trying to make money. That's their goal. Make as much profit as possible. They don't care about the side effects. And when it comes to doctors, I've had a doctor literally sit and tell me in the office, he told me, dude, I have to tell you this stuff. They're forced. It's like government has swallowed alive the medicine industry and the healthcare industry, where doctors can't even be doctors anymore. They have a specific agenda they have to follow, and if they don't do it, they'll get fired. So I've had a doctor tell me, I have to do this. I have to give you these pills. I have to ask you 50 times if you like the flu shot. They don't do it because even doctors now aren't really doctors. And I'm not saying don't go to a doctor. They still do a good job and they do what they need to do. But the medicine industry has been swallowed alive by the pharmacy industry. And they're not even allowed to tell you what they really think because they get fired if they do. It's in the legislation. So the same people that want to take the guns away and that want to make the kids march in the street, these are the same ones shoving depression pills and shoving pharmacy pills and shoving heroin and cocaine down your kid's throat. And they all do it. All the television stations do it. All of the, the social media's making it sound like it's the greatest thing in the world. If I own Twitter, I would be like, hey, here's some things that can naturally help you. And if you need to go medicine, you can go medicine. But what does Twitter do? They act like they have the moral high ground, yet they're literally telling kids, take pills, take pills, take pills, take pills, take pills, take pills. And pills Pharmacy pills kill 100,000 people a year. Pharmacy pills kill more people than guns could ever kill. And it makes people with guns more likely to commit a mass atrocity. So are people marching in the streets for that? Are people marching in the streets for texting while driving? Are people marching in the streets for, all the hundreds of thousands of people die? They don't care. No, because people do what the tech companies tell them to do. Because no matter what I say, no matter how real what I say is, yes, I reach millions of people a week. Yes, I reach almost 1 billion people a year. But they do what I do in a year with no advertising, by the way. That's just how amazing you guys are. We have one of the most engaged audiences on Facebook with no advertising budget. We reach more than the biggest, pages that people like the Young Turks spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and have, little guys running around, pushing the socialist agenda. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in ads, and, they don't even reach as many people as I do for free, thanks to you guys. So that's a big shout out to the movement. But that's what it is. These tech companies have so much control. These tech companies have so much power, and they are all on the alt-left agenda where they think changing gun legislation and brainwashing the kids and throwing them in the streets is going to stop gun control. And I don't say this because I'm a heartless person who wants everybody to die and, the NRA is terrorists, and me saying that makes me such a better person than the NRA. No, it doesn't work because you're not exploring all the options of why people are killing each other with guns. You could kill people in a car, if I wanted to. I don't, but it's like I could get in a car and just massacre a bunch of people. I wouldn't do it because, one, that's a terrible, disgusting thing to do. It would hurt my soul, and I would feel like the most, evil person on the planet, so it's not in my scope of view. But people can do what they want to do. People have been able to do what they want to do for a lot. Why do people not commit crimes every single second? Because it's a really sick, disgusting thing to do. It'll ruin your life. It'll ruin other people's lives. But there's a bunch of ways, if you want to do something evil, to do something evil. A gun has nothing to do with it. So it's just so laughable that people think that, marching around for gun legislation is actually going to solve the problem. I'm just being honest. I thought I was under I was under the notion that people actually wanted to make the world a better place, and they actually wanted to, stop gun violence, but apparently not. Apparently the new trendy thing to do is just, march like little wind-up dolls. It's like Google, Facebook, Twitter, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, random kids whose dad are FBI agents, and just I'm going to save gun control by not looking at how gun control works. And then, they pat themselves on the back and they say, wow, I'm such a better person than conservatives. There's going to be a blue wave coming up. And then you're like, hey, how come you like Democrats more than Republicans? What do you like about them? And they're like, nothing really. I don't like anything about them. Actually, I'm just controlled. And you're like, really? You don't have a reason to like somebody? And they're like, no, I just do what everyone else tells me to do. And it's like, I'm just letting you know. You could do that. I don't really care. You could march in the street. You could try to change legislation. It doesn't really bother me. I'm not a politician. I'm not trying to run for office. And in general, I believe in humanity. I think things will work themselves out. So I'm not really that concerned about it. But I'm just being honest. Is it going to help? Is it going to stop gun violence? Of course not. There's tens of millions of guns that are unregistered, just like there's millions of illegal immigrants, just like there's cartels in Mexico that would come over if you had no sort of border security, just like there's terrorists in the Middle East that are, sneaking in with fake identifications all over Europe and trying to come to the United States and Canada and Mexico. These things exist whether you ignore them or not. So I just thought, people would want to know about that. I don't know, like maybe we could stop violence together. Maybe we could stop all this terrorism, and maybe we can call out, the United States and Saudi Arabia and Israel, and we can be accountable, but at the same time not ignore that. But, the agenda, it's just like blame the blue-eyed white Christian male for every single thing. And it's like, I don't have blue eyes. I'm not Christian. I'm not that's not who I am. I'm just saying is that not the agenda of like the alt-left extremist like tech companies? Literally every single story I have, it's like blame everything on the Christian white guy, blame everything on the Christian white guy, blame everything on the Christian white guy, and the world's going to be better. I don't know. Do you think that's really going to make the world a better place? Do you think marching for gun legislation is going to be make the world a better place? Me personally, I mean, I know it's not going to work because I look at the stats, I look at the facts, I look at every single aspect of it, of all these things, and people don't want to talk about it. And like I said, conservatives are just as stubborn about a lot of things. But the modern day mind control television tech company liberal zombie, or whatever you want to call them, we can just... It's just like, you know, at what point do you really want to stop gun control, or at what point are you just trying to act better than conservatives? You know, that's all I see. It's to resist Trump, resist what they say. Let's ignore all the facts. Let's ignore anything that doesn't go with our agenda, and let's just continue to push this agenda. And that's the interesting thing, is it doesn't actually matter what happens, because that's how powerful the media companies and the tech companies are. You know, it doesn't matter what happens. A white guy could kill a black guy could kill a white guy, a white kid could shoot up a school, you know, a black person could shoot up a church, this person can do that person. It's not about race, religion, or gender. Anything can happen, and the media will push its agenda. It just doesn't matter. So it's like, if you're in that mindset, if you're looking for that stuff and you're easily controllable, you're going to get it, because they'll ignore a big story. If it doesn't fit their agenda, they'll put a microscope. Like with this, the big story is how the police stood down. The big story is how there were 50 plus calls and nothing happened. That's obviously the big story. This was one of the worst collapses I've ever seen by a police organization, and I think police, you know, around the nation, probably police officers were like, oh my goodness, these people are incompetent and pathetic. But you know, I don't control the media. I don't control the tech companies. You know, I don't control the minds of the masses. So, and I don't want to. I'm not a slave master. But there are slave masters out there who are trying to mind control the masses, and they do a great job. There's kids marching in the streets today. They're all over marching for irrelevant things that'll never actually change anything and never actually solve the problem. They don't care about the hundreds of thousands of people who die, you know, from pharmacy pills. They don't care about the hundreds of thousands of people who die from heart disease and obesity and health problems. They don't care about texting while driving. You know, they don't care about the wars. They don't care about the fact that people are enslaved because of liberals in the world today. They don't care about the fact that, you know, our media and our tech companies are pushing for a regime change war in Syria to kill the leader and let literal extremist terrorists take over the region and ruin people's lives. Like even my friend, you know, he lives out there. I know I'm so crazy because I don't want my friend to die at the hands of extremist terrorists. But you know, Google and Facebook doesn't tell me that, so I'm the crazy person for saying that. And if I share a video that people don't like, they think a Facebook post is more important. How dare you offend what I think, because I don't know. I want a bunch of people to die because Facebook told me it's okay. I'm just being honest. So overall, you know, point being, the kids are out marching in the street. Personally, I'm for common sense gun reform or legislation, and by common sense I mean real common sense. I mean like things that will actually help. Look at all the stats, look at all the facts, look at all the elements of why somebody would do something. Figure out how much of it you could really prevent and figure out how much of it you can't. Don't blame it on everybody else. You know, when one person commits a crime based on a race or religion or gender, you know, personally, I don't think everyone should be to blame for it, but I think we should explore the ideology, and we should explore like what elements of the person's ideology actually, you know, goes to it. So, you know, I would be for gun reform if it was like stronger background checks on people with mental disabilities, or like I don't think people with domestic violence charges should be able to get guns, stuff like that. You know, I'm totally for that. I'm not for arming teachers personally. I know if you caught a lot of these, you know, you might think, oh my God, he's this and that and this and that, and it doesn't matter. You know, if you disagree with me, it's all good. We can have our opinion. But I think taking away or not allowing guns to be bought from people with like serious crimes or domestic violence crimes or some sort of abuse crimes and, you know, mental health issues that are well documented, I think that totally makes sense to me. However, this type of marching and stuff, they're not marching for common sense. It's an agenda. You know, they're brainwashing the kids so they can vote for the Democratic Party, so they can, you know, impeach Trump and, you know, go start more wars and, you know, continue to fuel the military-industrial complex, because that's really what it's about. And to be honest, I have to say as well, I like the Second Amendment personally because it protects from government tyranny or a possible invasion from another country. You know, we'd be a very hard country to mess with. One, we have the biggest military in the world, but also behind every blade of grass, there's a person with a gun. That's, old quote. And a lot of people, the irony real quick before I leave is the same type of like extremist social justice warrior who will say, you have white privilege, you have white privilege, you can't talk because you have privilege. Those are the same people. If I told them and I was like, hey, this is why I support the Second Amendment, because I'm against government tyranny and I think it's good that the citizens are able to arm themselves. They would say to me, that's crazy. How you really think that would happen? That's never going to happen nowadays. Come on. That same person would say that to me. Why? The same person that would call me privileged would say that to me. And to them, I would say, how privileged, you have American privilege, and probably the person that would say that to me would probably be white. It's self-hating, white people and white women and stuff that hate themselves and hate men that talk like that. But, I would say, what type of American privilege do you have? There's people in Libya that are being enslaved. There's people in Syria they're trying to overthrow our government. So why do you think that couldn't possibly happen in America? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but why do you think it couldn't happen? Is it because you have American privilege? Is it because you're so privileged in these social justice warrior thoughts that you can't even fathom the fact that it's a very strong possibility? And the same ones that heavily push the kid walkout communist gun control agenda, those are the same people that are funding rebels overseas and literally, they work Republicans and Democrats hand in hand to basically, infiltrate existing governments and destroy them. So, is that something to think about? Of course not. Are people going to think about it? Well, probably not, because, it actually makes sense and it's real, and it's if it's not spoon-fed to you by Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, and random 16-year-old kids who, then I guess people don't think that way. And like I said, these type of thoughts, they're never going to be on Facebook's feature section. They're never going to be on Twitter. They're never going to be on Google. They're going to continue to indoctrinate the kids, with the extremist liberal agenda. And I'm okay with the peace, love, and positivity part of it, but I also would like common sense. I think conservatives could learn a little bit about being nicer from liberals, but I think liberals could learn from conservative common sense, because this open border and just like ignore everything else and like try to change legislation but ignore the real reasons that gun violence happens, it just doesn't make sense. So it's like, to me, the modern day liberal movement, not all liberals of course, the modern day liberal movement has turned into, I'm a better person than you, I'm smarter than conservatives, I'm better than conservatives, I hate white males that are Christian, and I want to pretend like I'm helping, and I want to pretend like I'm a better person, but I actually want to be a shittier person, and I actually want to just ruin everything and not make anything better, but feel like I'm better. So that's what I hear from the movement, and I would love somebody to convince me wrong, because I'm a lifelong liberal. You know what I'm saying? I've always been about peace, love, and positivity. I've never really seen eye to eye with conservatives. Ironically, conservatives support me the most because I keep it real, but that's just where I'm at. I know people can't handle it because they're like, why don't you think like me? Whatever. That's just where I'm at. That's what I see from this gun control movement and the tech companies and the celebrities. It's just a bunch of, I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you, you won the election because everyone's more racist than me, he won the election because everyone's sexist, it was Russia, I'm smarter, I have a college degree, and you're dumb because you live in the country, you're dumb because you support gun control, you're stupid, and I hate you because of your race, and I hate you because of your religion, I only like people of other religions that are having extremist problems where they're chopping off people's heads in other countries, and that's okay, I'm going to protect those people, and I'm going to hate on you, I'm better than you, I need, the First and Second Amendment shouldn't exist for you because you're a terrible person, you're a terrorist because you support, normal gun ownership. This is like, I would love to be proven wrong by somebody, but this is what modern day, mind control liberals are screaming at me. That's all I hear is like, I'm a better person, I'm going to not help anything, I'm going to destroy and ruin everything, but while I'm doing it, I'm going to continuously tell you how much smarter I am than you and how much better I am than you. And, ha ha ha, you guys are racist, you guys are sexist, let me pretend like I'm going to help, but let me do the opposite of helping, and let me not explore all the options of what's going on, and let's pump the kids with more pills, let's pump the 5-year-olds with hormone injections, I would love to be wrong, but it's like that, to me, that's what the gun march is, that's what the tech companies are, that's what the celebrities are, at what point, you got to think at some point, people are going to just wake up out of that slumber and just get it together a little bit. I would hope so, because to be honest, if you really look at President Trump, he's the most liberal Republican ever. He's the best Republican ever. He's honestly a perfect opportunity for Republicans and Democrats to unite. He's the perfect opportunity for liberals and conservatives to unite, because he does more liberal things than any conservative ever. He's very well loved among conservatives, similar to me, where he can connect both sides and he can bring people together and he can do common sense stuff that conservatives all love, but he can also do liberal things that liberal love. So we have the perfect opportunity and the best president to bring the conservatives and the liberals together. And I never imagined that it would be the liberal side, my brothers and sisters, who I know are kind-hearted and good people and are really trying to make the world a better place. I never in my wildest dreams thought it would be the liberals that were being more stubborn and ruining everything, and the conservatives willing to, reach across the table and make a compromise. But that's where we're at. And Trump really is the perfect president for that. He's willing to do more gun reform than conservatives want to do. He's willing to pass these little things to make liberals happy, but nothing makes liberals happy. He literally wants to make a fence into a wall, and liberals are mad, and then they say it's racist because he wants to send illegals back, and then he literally says, I'll keep 2 million illegals, I'll keep all the illegal immigrants in, just let me turn the little baby fence that does nothing into a wall, and everyone freaks out. So it's like, at what point is it Trump's fault and conservatives' fault, and at what point do liberals take a step back and stop listening to Bill Maher and stop listening to Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert and Trevor Noah and Facebook and Twitter and Google? At what point do they step back and realize, you know what? I'm not conservative. You don't have to be conservative. You don't have to be Republican. I'm not. But at a certain point, you have to step back and be like, you know what? Maybe all of these tech companies and all of the media, maybe they're not actually trying to help me. Maybe they're just trying to sell a bunch of pills, and they're trying to sell, military-industrial complex, and they're trying to push an agenda of control rather than actually try to help people, because, that's what they're doing. Either they know they're doing it, or they're just, a bunch of useful idiots. So that's just where I'm at, I know this probably didn't go over well with some people. I'm sure it did with a lot of people. That's just how I feel. The gun control situation, the marches aren't helping. The strategy's not helping. Everything that modern day liberals are doing are not helping. And I'm not saying it to be mean or anything. Just like I always say conservatives. I mean, there's a reason that the guy lost in Pennsylvania. It's because before Donald Trump, conservatives, young people don't like conservatives. Young people don't like Republicans. They don't reach out to young people in a good manner. They're always yelling about the same 3 points, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but I am saying it just doesn't work. So it's like President Trump saved the Republican Party. President Trump saved the conservative movement. The conservative movement was toast before President Trump. He literally saved it and rescued it and made it cool again. So that's just my, that's my constructive criticism. Not that I don't like to even critique, because I'm not a big critic per se. Everybody has their flaws and everybody could be better. I like to focus on myself, but that's my honest, nice message as a friend to conservatives. If you want the young kids to like you and to not be marching in the street like mind-controlled zombies for gun control, you got to attempt to reach out to them, because liberals are crushing it in entertainment. Liberals are crushing it in music. Liberals are crushing it when it comes to youth outreach. They're a lot better than Republicans. And the people who do have success are people like Paul Joseph Watson or Mark Dice, and I don't even do that well among kids. All the kids that used to like me probably don't like me anymore because I started talking too much honesty instead of just rapping. But it's just the truth, and it's something to think about, because the youth, although they'll probably get smarter when they get older, and they'll learn a little bit more, it's important to reach out to the youth in some way, because Democrats and the tech companies, they have a very good youth outreach program, and they have all the things that kids spend all day on the phones. They really have them controlled in that way. So something to think about. Thank you guys. Someone said before I leave, you sold out. I would love for whoever said that, come to my next question and answer. You could ask me any questions. You could explain why you think that I sold out or whatever. Let me know, because I'm literally willing to answer any questions. I'm literally willing to debate any progressive or liberal that makes absolutely no sense. but no one wants to debate me. Everybody runs away or calls me names or whatever. So find someone with a comparable platform. I'm willing to debate them. I would love to have a conversation. I've yet to hear any liberal or progressive even come within 1/15 of like, you know, how real I keep it, and they make absolutely no sense, which is probably why they won't want to talk to me. You know, so set up a debate or come to the question and answer, and we'll see what you think. But that's where I'm at. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time. Have a good week. I have my link below if you'd like to support my news analysis. Also, what was I going to say? Oh, I'll post all my social media links as well, and I have a free email list. So I'll be back today. I'm probably going to do 1 or 2 videos, talk about Trump went to go check out the border wall, which is pretty interesting. Have some thoughts on that, like I was kind of telling you now. Try to make a little viral type video out of that, and then, you know, other things as well. Have a good day. Thank you so much for joining. Just to wrap it up, the gun marches, that's cool or whatever, but I just don't think it's going to help, because in order to really stop gun violence and in order to really stop actual deaths and unnecessary deaths, you have to look at all sorts of the problem, and you have to stop being so stubborn, and you have to stop blaming everything on conservatives. Just like conservatives shouldn't just blame everything on liberals. We need to talk, have conversations, and get to the facts, get to the truth. I just find, unfortunately, that the modern day people who are marching in the streets and stuff, they don't want to do that. They don't want to talk. They don't want to find the truth. They just want to be right. They just want to be better than everybody, and they just want to pat themselves on the back while calling other people terrorists. I wish I was making that up, but that's the world we live in. Have a good day. I'll be back later.